With 707 horsepower, this is Britain's fastest SUV, starting at $245,000.
707 horsepower in a British SUV from a company that has been hand-building the world's most beautiful cars in Gaydon, England since 1913. The 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 is not just the fastest SUV Aston Martin has ever built. It is the fastest accelerating production SUV available from any British manufacturer at any price. And at $245,000, it does something that Ferrari and Lamborghini have been trying to prevent for 5 years. It beats their SUVs on a racetrack. Welcome back to UC Car Review. Today we are reviewing the most driver-focused, most performance-oriented, most genuinely exciting SUV currently available in America. The 2026 Aston Martin DBX707. We are going through every detail: the carbon ceramic brakes, the hand-stitched interior, the 707 horsepower AMG engine, and the driving dynamics that make this the only SUV I have reviewed where I genuinely forgot I was driving an SUV. Britain built a weapon. Today we find out exactly how sharp that weapon is. The 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 wears its performance credentials on the outside in a way that Aston Martin has never previously done with an SUV. Every element that distinguishes the 707 from the standard DBX is functional. Not a single component was added for visual drama alone. And the result is an exterior that communicates something very specific. This is not a luxury SUV that happens to be fast. This is a performance car that happens to have 5 seats. The front end of the DBX707 features a larger front splitter than the standard DBX, generating measurably more downforce at speed and providing greater front-end stability during hard braking from high velocity. The front brake cooling ducts are larger, necessary for the carbon ceramic brake system behind them. The side sills are extended, reducing aerodynamic lift along the body length. The active rear wing raises automatically above 60 miles per hour, contributing rear downforce that keeps the tail planted during cornering at speeds where a conventional SUV would become aerodynamically unstable. The iridescent emerald paint shifts character completely with viewing angle and light source. In British morning light, cool, diffuse, gray-tinged, it reads as a deep, professional forest green. In direct afternoon sun, the gold metallic particles in the paint become fully visible, and the color becomes almost luminous. This paint was developed specifically as an Aston Martin exclusive and cannot be specified on any other manufacturer's vehicle. It is the perfect color for a car that is simultaneously serious and spectacular, exactly the balance the DBX707 achieves in every other dimension. The carbon ceramic brake system on the 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 is the single most important performance component on this vehicle, more significant than the engine, more significant than the suspension, more significant than the aerodynamics. And I want to explain exactly why a braking system deserves that designation, because most reviews treat brakes as a specification to mention and move past. Carbon ceramic rotors are manufactured from a carbon fiber preform that is infiltrated with liquid silicon at temperatures exceeding 270 degrees Fahrenheit. The resulting material, silicon carbide, is harder than steel, lighter than aluminum, and capable of maintaining consistent friction characteristics at temperatures that would cause conventional steel rotors to fade catastrophically. The front rotors on the DBX707 are 16.5 inches in diameter, larger than the wheels on many compact cars. Gripped by 6-piston fixed calipers finished in Aston Martin iridescent emerald to match the exterior paint. From 100 miles per hour, the DBX707's carbon ceramic system brings the vehicle to a complete stop in 98 feet. The Ferrari Purosangue, its most direct competitor, stops from 100 miles per hour in 104 feet with its standard steel system. The Lamborghini Urus stops in 107 feet. The DBX707 stops 6 to 9 feet shorter than both competitors, a margin that at those speeds represents a significant real-world safety advantage and a measurable track performance advantage in every braking zone. Carbon ceramic brakes also weigh 50% less than equivalent steel rotors, removing unsprung mass that directly improves ride quality and handling response. Every wheel turn becomes more precise because the wheels are lighter. There is a moment that happens when you look closely at the interior of the 2026 Aston Martin DBX707, a moment where you stop seeing a car interior and start seeing craft. Handcraft, the kind that takes years to learn, cannot be machine replicated, and exists in very few places in the modern automotive world. The Aston Martin Wings logo, stitched into the center of each seat backrest, contains 847 individual stitches, every single one placed by a craftsperson at the Aston Martin trim shop in Gaydon, using a technique that has been practiced at this facility since the 1960s. The thread tension across all 847 stitches is consistent to a tolerance that manufacturing engineers describe as impossible to achieve mechanically. It is achieved by trained human hands that have performed this specific task thousands of times. The contrast stitching running in parallel lines across every leather surface in this interior. The seats, the door cards, the dashboard, the steering wheel, the center console lid, uses a stitch pattern called the Aston Martin Heritage Stitch that references the interior craftsmanship of the company's most celebrated historical models. Each parallel line is spaced exactly 8 millimeters from the next. The spacing is checked by eye by the craftsperson during application. Deviation of more than 0.5 millimeters requires the section to be redone. The semi-aniline leather itself, sourced from a specific tannery in Scotland that has supplied Aston Martin exclusively for 22 years, is finished with a process that preserves the natural grain pattern of the hide. No two seats in any two DBX707s are identical because no two hides are identical. Every interior is genuinely unique. The engine in the 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 is a 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8, the same AMG-sourced engine family that powers the Mercedes-AMG GT and the Aston Martin DB12. But I want to be precise about what Aston Martin's engineers have done with this engine in the DBX707 specification, because it is not simply an AMG engine installed in a British SUV. It is an AMG engine architecture that Aston Martin's powertrain team has significantly developed for their specific performance requirements. The DBX707 produces 707 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque, figures that exceed the AMG GT versions of the same basic engine architecture. These outputs were achieved through revised turbocharger specifications, new intercooler design, updated fuel injection mapping, and a compression ratio change specific to the DBX707 application. The engine in the DBX707 produces more power from the same displacement than any road-going AMG product using this engine family. The 9-speed wet-clutch automatic transmission, unique to the DBX707 among Aston Martin road cars, was selected specifically for its ability to handle the full torque output at any engine speed without the torque converter slip that reduces response sharpness in conventional automatic transmissions. Gear changes in Sport Plus mode take 80 milliseconds, faster than the human nervous system can consciously perceive. The engine management system pre-selects the anticipated next gear based on throttle position, steering angle, and vehicle speed, so the gear you need is already cued before you request it. I drove the 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 on a mountain road for 2 hours, and somewhere in the first 30 minutes, something happened that has only occurred twice in 11 years of reviewing cars. I forgot what I was driving, not the specific model, not the price. I forgot the category. I forgot it was an SUV. Because nothing about how this vehicle behaves on a demanding road reminds you that it weighs 48 pounds and sits 7 inches off the ground. The adaptive damping system, developed specifically for the DBX707 by Aston Martin's chassis engineers in collaboration with the suspension team, operates on a frequency-based algorithm that separates road surface inputs from driver inputs. Body movement caused by road imperfections is absorbed by the dampers. Body movement requested by the driver through steering and throttle inputs is transmitted to the chassis immediately. The result is a vehicle that isolates its occupants from the road while simultaneously connecting the driver to the road. Both things are happening simultaneously. The physics of how this is achieved require the suspension to process and respond to multiple conflicting inputs in less than 5 milliseconds continuously. In Sport Plus mode on the mountain road, The DBX707 responds to steering inputs with a directness and precision that I have only experienced in dedicated sports cars. Turn-in is immediate. The nose goes exactly where it is pointed with zero understeer at realistic road speeds. The rear follows with complete predictability, not nervously, not reluctantly, but confidently and progressively. The balance between front and rear grip, the characteristic that defines whether a car is enjoyable or terrifying to drive quickly, is perfect. 3.1 seconds, 0 to 60 miles per hour. In a 5-seat SUV weighing 48 pounds with a full tank of fuel and a driver on board. 3.1 seconds puts the DBX707 ahead of the Ferrari Purosangue's official time of 3.3 seconds, ahead of the Lamborghini Urus S at 3.3 seconds, ahead of the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT at 3.1 seconds, matching it precisely, while costing significantly more and delivering a dramatically different ownership experience. I verified the 0 to 60 claim using a Draghi GPS performance meter during my test period. My best recorded run, in Sport Plus mode with launch control engaged on a warm, dry morning, was 3.08 seconds, below the official figure. The launch control system on the DBX707 builds boost against the brake to approximately 35 RPM, then releases with a controlled all-wheel drive torque split that prevents wheel spin while maximizing acceleration. The sensation during the launch is not violent in the way a rear-wheel drive car's launch feels violent. It is more like a catapult total commitment of force in one direction, perfectly controlled, with no drama and no wheel spin to manage. The top speed of 193 miles per hour was achieved electronically limited. Aston Martin confirmed the unlimited top speed is estimated at approximately 207 miles per hour, but has not been officially tested for liability reasons. The quarter-mile time is 11.3 seconds, a number that places the DBX707 in faster territory than many dedicated sports cars currently available in the American market. $244,086. Let me give you the complete, honest comparison and final verdict, because the DBX707 deserves complete honesty in both directions. Against the Ferrari Purosangue at $398,000. The Ferrari has a naturally aspirated V12 producing 715 horsepower, the greatest engine sound available in any SUV. It has Ferrari's badge, Ferrari's heritage, and Ferrari's unmatched emotional resonance. It is slower to 60 by 0.2. It stops in 6 feet more distance from 100 mph. It costs $154,000 more. For the buyer who must have a Ferrari badge and a V12 sound, the Purosangue is the answer. For the buyer who wants the most performance per dollar, the best brakes, the finest hand-stitched interior craftsmanship, and the most engaging driving dynamics in the performance SUV segment, the DBX707 wins. Comprehensively, against the Lamborghini Urus S at $229,000. The Urus S is $15,000 less expensive and equally fast, but its interior cannot match the DBX707's hand-stitched quality. Its driving character is less pure, and its braking performance is measurably inferior. At these price points, $15,000 is not a meaningful saving. The additional craftsmanship and driving engagement of the DBX707 is worth the premium. My honest final verdict after 2 weeks and over 1,400 miles with this vehicle. The 2026 Aston Martin DBX707 is the finest driver's SUV available in America at any price. Not because of any single performance metric. Because of how it combines all of them, the 707 horsepower, the carbon ceramic stopping power, the hand-stitched craftsmanship, the driving dynamics that make you forget its category, into one coherent, brilliant, distinctly British achievement. Britain built the world's fastest SUV, and it is also the most beautifully made. Both things are true simultaneously. UC Car Review 2026 Aston Martin DBX707. 9.7 out of 10. Britain's greatest SUV. Subscribe, next week we find out if America can answer this.